Welcome to today's Explainer. Look, if you're joining us right now, chances are you, or maybe someone you know, has been trying to navigate the incredibly complex waters of the United States financial system. And if you're an immigrant, a newcomer, or a foreign national just trying to build a life here, you've probably run headfirst into what feels like a massive, totally impenetrable brick wall. I mean, you want to do the right things, right? You want to pay your taxes. You want to open a basic bank account. Maybe you even want to start your own business. But literally, every single time you sit down at a bank desk or log into some financial portal, they ask for a 9-digit number that you just don't have. And bam, the door slams completely shut in your face. It's incredibly frustrating, and honestly, it can make you feel entirely invisible in the system.
It really does feel like you're completely locked out, doesn't it? The anxiety of thinking you're stuck in some sort of impossible legal loop can be super overwhelming. You might be stressing out, wondering how you're ever supposed to rent a nice apartment, secure a loan, or simply exist financially in America without a social security number. But here is the secret that most people, and honestly even some professionals, get completely wrong. There is this massive, widespread belief holding you back, and today, we're going to expose it as a total myth.
Because here is the absolute game changer. You do not need a social security number to get an ITIN. In fact, as we'll see in just a minute, it's actually the exact opposite. If you've been sitting in the dark thinking an SSN is your one and only path forward, let me introduce you to the Individual Taxpayer Identification Number, or the ITIN. This 9-digit number, it's your golden ticket to financial integration. In this explainer, we're going to completely demystify this intimidating IRS process together and show you exactly how to claim your financial identity. Oh, and before we really get going, if you find this breakdown helpful and want to master the U.S. financial system, make sure you join our community. Everyone deserves a fair shot at the American dream.
Okay, here's our roadmap for today's Explainer. We'll start by tackling the Social Security myth, then we'll figure out exactly who needs an ITIN, walk step by step through the application blueprint, and finally, cover how to keep your passport totally safe during the process. Let's get right into it.
First up, Section 1, the Social Security myth and our SSN versus ITIN breakdown.
So let's dive into this first pillar, because we absolutely need to clear up the confusion between these two numbers issued by the IRS. So many people just use the terms interchangeably, but they serve totally different purposes. The Social Security number, the SSN, is issued to U.S. citizens, permanent residents like green card holders, and temporary non-immigrant workers. Its primary function? It authorizes you to work legally in the U.S. Now, the ITIN, on the other hand, is created specifically for individuals who are required by law to have a U.S. taxpayer identification number, but who are completely ineligible for an SSN. They both come from the government, sure, but they serve entirely different audiences and completely different purposes.
Ultimately, an ITIN is simply a 9-digit processing number. That's the whole shebang. It doesn't grant you immigration status, and no, it doesn't give you legal work authorization. But what it does do is make sure you can legally pay your taxes, comply with U.S. laws, and importantly, participate financially in the system without actually needing that work authorization.
Which brings us to the golden rule of U.S. tax IDs. You absolutely cannot have an SSN and an ITIN at the exact same time. The IRS will only grant you an ITIN specifically because you cannot get an SSN. If you qualify for an SSN, you got to apply for that instead. The ITIN is basically the IRS's way of ensuring that everyone who needs to pay taxes can do so, totally regardless of their immigration or Social Security eligibility status.
Moving right along to Section 2, who exactly needs an ITIN? Let's talk about qualifying for this 9-digit number. Now that we know what the number actually is, let's see if you fall into a qualifying category. Imagine an entrepreneur named Maria. Let's say she just moved here and is making money from digital sales, or maybe she bought a little investment property. Because she has U.S.-sourced income, she likely needs an ITIN as a non-resident alien who needs to file a tax return. Pretty straightforward, right? Or maybe you're a resident alien living in the U.S. who has to file taxes based on the number of days you've physically been present in the country. You also qualify if you're a dependent or a spouse of a U.S. citizen, a lawful permanent resident, or even a non-resident alien visa holder. If any of these situations sound like you, well, you've got a legitimate legal path forward to get your number.
All right, Section 3, the application blueprint. It's time to conquer the W-7 package.
We can take all of this notorious, super intimidating IRS bureaucracy and break it down into a highly manageable 3-part blueprint. Don't let the government form scare you. It's really just a recipe we need to follow precisely. Step 1 is the Form W-7 itself. This is your official application for IRS Individual Taxpayer Identification Number. Step 2 is attaching your federal tax return. And Step 3 involves providing some pretty strict proof of your identity and your foreign status. When you break it down into just 3 steps like that, the whole bureaucracy suddenly feels completely achievable, doesn't it?
But I definitely want to draw your attention to step 2 for a second, because this is where a lot of people trip up. Look at this massive number, 90%. A massive 90% of applicants must attach a valid, completed federal income tax return directly to their W-7 application. You generally don't just apply for an I-10 by itself on a random Tuesday, right? You apply for it at the exact same time you are filing your taxes. There are a few very rare exceptions, but attaching your tax return is basically a nearly universal requirement.
Then we get to step 3, proving who you are. The IRS is notoriously strict about documentation, but a valid passport, that is your ultimate tool. Why? Because according to the IRS, a valid passport is the absolutely only standalone document that proves both your identity and your foreign status at the exact same time. If you have a current, valid passport from your home country, you're golden. You don't need to dig up anything else.
Now, what if you don't happen to have a passport? Well, the IRS does offer alternatives, but the rule gets quite a bit stricter. If you lack a passport, you're going to have to mix and match at least 2 approved alternative documents. You need a combination of things like a national identification card from your home country, a U.S. driver's license, or a foreign birth certificate. Again, they absolutely must prove both identity and foreign status together, which is exactly why having a passport just makes this entire process infinitely smoother.
Finally, Section 4, keep your passport safe. Let's talk about avoiding the major application trap.
So the crucial point we need to hit on here is learning how to navigate the IRS's absolutely strictest rule without losing access to your most important travel document. This is where applications either succeed or just become total nightmares. Please, whatever you do, avoid this trap. The IRS strictly requires original documents or certified copies directly from the issuing agency. Do not, under any circumstances, just put your passport on a standard office scanner, print out a black and white photocopy, and mail it in. They will reject it instantly. Now, naturally, the idea of putting your actual physical original passport into an envelope and mailing it to a giant IRS processing center is absolutely terrifying. It can take weeks or even months to get it back, leaving you completely without your primary form of ID. But don't panic, because there are secret shortcuts.
Let's look at 2 stress-free hacks that let you fulfill those super strict verification rules while keeping your physical passport safely right there in your pocket. Option A is using Certified Acceptance Agents, or CAAs. These are IRS-authorized professionals, think certain accountants or immigration services, who are legally allowed to physically look at your original passport, verify it, create a certified copy, and send that certification to the IRS for you. Pretty great, right? Option B is visiting an IRS Taxpayer Assistance Center, or TAC. You can actually make an appointment at a local IRS office that offers this service. They'll look at your passport right there at the desk, verify it on the spot, and hand it straight back to you. No mailing required whatsoever.
Once you navigate this application and finally get that 9-digit number in the mail, just look at the empowering horizon that opens up for you. Getting this ITIN isn't just about tax compliance. It's honestly the first massive milestone to unlocking the American dream. With an ITIN, you can apply for credit cards, you can secure a mortgage to buy a home, you can pay your taxes properly and legally, and you can start building legitimate generational wealth in the United States. You finally get to step out of the shadows and fully into the financial system.
So, I want to leave you with this final thought. Now that you know exactly how to conquer the W-7 and secure your ITIN, how will you use it to build a perfect credit score? That 9-digit number is just sitting there waiting to work for you. Be sure to check the description below for direct links to the official IRS forms, the document checklists, and a directory to find a local certified acceptance agent right near you. Empower yourself, take that first step, and start building your financial identity today. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.